Hello everyone, welcome to another Monday night Life Stories Worldwide event, and I would just like to apologise first of all that Alan Jones is still not over his recent illness, so I'm standing in, or sitting in as it were, for him tonight, but Alan would send his love to everyone who watches on a regular basis and looking at this going forward. So we're here just to welcome you to tonight's Zoom meeting and StreamYard meeting. And we just say that every Monday night we present stories of different lives that have been affected by Christ. All different backgrounds. We've had businessmen, we've had people who've been on drugs, it's been set free, people who've had painful difficulties in their lives, and people who suffered rejection, and so on and so forth. The whole gamut, the whole spectrum of different human experiences we've had here tonight on Zoom meetings. They're on every Monday night, usually live, predominantly live, at 8 o'clock UK time. That's 8 o'clock UK time. And they can be seen on StreamYard, which is a new function we have. They can be seen on Zoom. You can see them on Facebook, and you can also see them on YouTube. We've also started something else quite new, which is podcasts on radio. You can see through Spotify, which I would encourage you to listen to. You can listen to just as you're going about your normal daily chores or whatever, and you can listen to that. So that's another way you can listen to these life stories. We just point to the website we have. It will come up at some point during the meeting. There it is there, lifestoriesworldwide.com. On that, you'll see contact details. There is also a Bible app which you can download for free, which you can use for your own private studies and devotions and growth. There are also links to the Facebook and also the YouTube videos, which have been on there, librarized in there and categorized in there into different, either the Monday nights, or it could be life stories at lunch, which are a wee bit shorter, but it allows you to spend, say, 10 or 20 minutes just catching up a particular life story. So I would encourage you to go to the website and just have a look at the information there, and also gives you details of the speakers coming up. The other thing is just the contact details on there. There's an email address. If you want to contact us, please email us on that one there that's coming up. It's lifestoriesworldwide@gmail.com. That's lifestoriesworldwide@gmail.com. If you have any questions, want any more information, just email us. We'd only be too happy to contact you and just help you on your walk. So please contact us through email. The other option you have is a telephone number, which again will come up in just a few seconds. It's +44 794 355 0287. +44 794 355 027. Please call us on that number. You can WhatsApp us as well if you prefer to do it that way. So there's some text correspondence. You can phone us or text us, and we would again only be too happy to answer any questions, give you any help or any support you need. So from there, I'm just going to hand you over to our speaker tonight, a fine gentleman called Dr. Ian Robertson. He has been involved in setting up various radio stations and Christian radio stations, and various other things. Tonight he's going to share his story. Now, it's not going to be the normal sharing, just somebody on a screen talking. It will be an interview style, and our own George Collins will do the interview, and Dr. Ian Robertson would then answer those questions. So from me, over to Ian and George, and take it from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Howard. And let me give you a warm welcome, Ian, to Life Stories Worldwide Live. Now, the press that we released on the short bio that we put out says you're a journalist, okay? Now we've all seen the movies where you have these journalists seeking a story and all this kind of thing. Is that the kind of journalist you are, or tell us what journalists actually do, please?
Well, the first job I had as a journalist was actually with my local newspaper in my hometown of Sheffield, and I was trained there for about 18 months before I took on the job as a journalist on the business newspaper, which I did for a couple of years, and then got involved with the evening paper. So I was a print journalist initially, but then when eventually Sheffield acquired a commercial radio station, a number of us that were working on the newspaper moved across to working on news actually on the radio. So I started to work with Radio Hallam, as it was called, and worked there for a number of years in the newsroom and also helping with other programs. Prior to that, I'd had experience with the BBC, and that really sort of helped me in that transition between print radio and working print newspapers and working on radio.
Excellent. Now, of course, so you see, you come from Sheffield, I see, and but in Sheffield, of course, we all know about the Sheffield Steel and the coal mines. When you were growing up in that, did you ever imagine you would be a journalist or on radio?
Not really, because in my early days, I wasn't really very good at school.
Life Stories Worldwide is broadcast live every Monday night at 8 p.m. UK time. We'll broadcast live on YouTube, Facebook and StreamYard. So why not join us every Monday night at 8 p.m. UK time for Life Stories Worldwide. If you would like to speak to us here at Life Stories Worldwide, you can, simply by dialing +44 7943 550287. Call us now.
The only thing I was really interested in was music. And that came about because somebody joined my class at school who was a drummer. And he was quite spectacular, really, as a 15-year-old drummer. Mm-hmm. He knew I played guitar and asked me whether I would go around and play some sessions with him. And eventually, we got a number of other people together until we formed a band. We were all just about 15 and 16 years old. And so at that point, if I was looking towards the future, I really wanted to be a full-time musician, working in a band. I'm sure that may be an ambition for quite a lot of 15, 16-year-olds. Yes. But we got very lucky because a number of promoters had asked us to play at some of the festivals in the local area. And so we did a number of those and became really very popular. And a number of the local bands would play in those, and they'd usually be a celebrity who would come and host it. But the person who organized those was a man called Peter Stringfellow.
Wow.
And that's a name that a number of you may know. Probably not for such great reasons, but maybe you don't know the backstory on Peter Stringfellow. Peter and his brother Jeff owned a number of music venues in Sheffield. And in fact, he was reputed, well, it certainly was true, to have managed to book the Beatles for £50 to play in one of his venues when they were next to, I think, second in the charts with Love Me Do. So Peter was a great music promoter long before he ever got involved in those seedy sort of clubs in London. And they were incredible. And they wanted to make Sheffield what Liverpool had become. And so he encouraged a lot of the local bands. And so a number of us played in those bands. And uh, before long, some of us were playing with one or two who were actually making recordings as well. So they were doing demo discs to try and get recording contracts. And I played for a little while in the band of a guy called Vance Arnold and the Avengers. Vance Arnold and the Avengers was the name of the band, and he was a very smart, brilliant singer, very jazz style and everything else. But later in life, he changed his image, he changed his music, and he became known as Joe Cocker.
Wow.
So I had the privilege of playing in his band for a long time. So music was a huge part of my life. I never thought that I would end up being a journalist. I wasn't great at school at English or anything like that. But my story as I went through university changed that, as also because I became a Christian.
Wow. I was going to ask you, did you play support to any famous bands? But you've just mentioned Joe Cocker there. So did you play with any other bands as well?
Not really. That was the main one. A number of us played in the local area, and we managed to make reasonable success in terms of doing live gigs, but never got to the level that Joe did in terms of international music.
I mean, the band scene, of course, at that time was renowned for women, drugs, drink. How is it that did you fall into that lifestyle, or was it something that you didn't want to do?
No, not really. I mean, it was always nice to have girls around. I think that would be probably natural. But the drugs and the drink, I think, was very much more the people that were in their 20s.
Right.
And the people, especially in the London area, Sheffield's scene at that time was really very geared. People just wanted to be musicians. They wanted to play. They wanted audiences. They wanted the adulation of that, and that was really where it was at that point. As we know, once it got into the significant part of the 1960s, that did change, and drugs and alcoholism all came through that. And sadly, that happened to Joe Cocker as well.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about growing up in Sheffield, because it was a very industrial place, of course, and you said you weren't very good at school. Tell us a bit what was like at school. Was school tough for you?
School was tough because I was bone idle. I really didn't give myself the best chances at all, which is not really surprising given the fact that, as I said, I was only interested in music. But my parents were very encouraging about school, about me working with other people in music and so on. So growing up was very supportive. I had two wonderful parents. You mentioned, of course, it was a steel town. My father was a senior manager at a steel firm called Firth Browns. He was incredibly good at maths, which helped me a lot because I was terrible. So I had a very happy childhood. I was an only child, but my parents were very welcoming to my friends, who launched into our house virtually every single evening. So how my mother ever managed to cook for everybody, I'll never know. I think she probably thought it might have been better to have two children rather than one child and 10 friends.
It's very easy to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Life Stories at Lunch, to receive notifications of when we are live. Simply click the bell. If you would like to contact us here at Life Stories Worldwide, you can, simply by emailing lifestoriesworldwide@gmail.com, or visit our website at lifestoriesworldwide.com. Excellent. So you seem to have very comfortable and nice parents and good friends. And although school was a little bit tough with education, but as you're going through school, what kind of career did you have in mind at that time?
Well, once I got into the sixth form,
Mm-hmm.
I decided that I do subjects that might help me get to university. And I was hoping that I might actually end up as a lawyer. So the subjects I did were going to help, but I didn't want to read law at university. My interest by that time was history. And so I wanted to read history at Oxford
Mm-hmm.
University. But in the 1960s, the interesting thing happened was the fact that although I passed the exams to get in, my face didn't really fit. And so I didn't get in. And I ended up at King's College in London,
Mm-hmm.
University in London, and read history there. I was surrounded by three groups of people who were my peers. Some of them were training to be doctors, some of them were training to be lawyers, and others were training in the media. And so I was a bit torn at that point between law and the media when I eventually finished my
Mm-hmm.
undergraduate years. But, but I was given an opportunity because my cousin worked at Sheffield newspapers, and her boss asked whether she knew anybody who would like to work there in their summer holidays. So I managed to get the most wonderful summer holiday job anybody could have, really, working in a newspaper context, learning the skills and getting paid for it as an 18-year-old, and subsequently all the summer vacations after that. And that really gave me the bug to become a journalist.
So as you were doing your summer job, did you learn all the typesetting and all that kind of stuff as well for the printing?
We virtually did every single department, but I
Mm-hmm.
felt most comfortable, I think, in writing and especially in doing interviews.
Mm-hmm.
My editor sent me out a lot to do interviews. He gave me some training, but then said, various things you need to do, like you need to research the person you're going to interview well,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can ask the right sort of questions. And you mustn't be frightened to ask difficult questions and not just be, friendly all the time. So he gave me a number of interviews. Probably the one that sticks in my mind the most was interviewing George Best, the
Mm-hmm.
footballer, while I was at Sheffield newspapers. And that was a really incredible occasion. And George was very communicative. He was certainly on form, and at that point, at his high point in his football career.
Yes, the Irish people have known to me speak a word or two. Yes, they have. um, you said your manager sent you. What was the weirdest interview you were ever sent on?
The weirdest interview probably was with a musical band called Frankenstein and the Monsters. And they were a band that dressed up like Frankenstein, and the band were like monsters. And that was their unique selling point on the stage. And I've never seen anybody as weird as this group were. And I had to try and interview them and get some sense out of them. They weren't as communicative as George Best, probably because, music was their thing, and they weren't really bothered very much about talking to a person from the newspapers. But they did like the interview, and they did thank me for trying hard to get sense out of them.
Did you pass any comment on their musical skills in your report?
I did. I said that they were a very popular Sheffield band. I didn't say I thought they weren't very good.
So, as a journalist, I mean, do you always have to be honest and open, or do you have to temper your words that you are reporting as a journalist?
I think you've got to think of your audience. I think it's true if you're a broadcaster, certainly true if you're a journalist. You've got to think about the audience. And there is no doubt that true life stories are the things that impress people most as they read. So it's great if you can get true life stories. And really, you're just giving the interviewee the opportunity to share their story and tell it the way it is from their point of view. What I'm doing really is just prompting them. If it's an interview with a politician, then I think you tend to be more gritty and you tend to be more pushy to try and get out of them what really the truth behind certain situations. And as anybody knows who's interviewed politicians, it is very hard to get a straight answer sometimes.
Very true. So, as a journalist, then you seem to have covered every spectrum of the interview, from politicians to sports people to the bands. What was your favourite?
Yeah.
Which of those genres
I'm not
would you say
sure
your
that
favourite was?